All right, let's jump right in. In January of 2026, what's happening in Iran isn't just a crisis, it's a whole bunch of them hitting all at once. This isn't a story about a single protest. No, this is about a nation that's been caught in a perfect storm of failures, and we're about to break down exactly how it all connects.
And look, this isn't some analyst talking from the outside. That quote, that's coming directly from Iran's own president, Masoud Pezeshkian. It's this incredibly rare, stark admission that things have gotten so bad they just can't hide it anymore.
And that brings us to this number, 2,586. According to the human rights activist news agency, that's the estimated number of people killed in the nationwide protests. It's a truly staggering figure that shows you the immediate, tragic human cost of this collapse.
So it's really crucial to understand this. What we're seeing isn't just one event. It's what some are calling a polycrisis, this convergence of economic, environmental, and political failures, where each one is making the others worse, feeding into this devastating spiral.
Okay, so let's break this down. First up, we have Stormfront number 1, the complete and total meltdown of Iran's economy. This is really the spark that first drove millions of people into the streets. Look at this number. Almost 1.5 million. That is just unbelievable. That's how many Iranian rials it now takes to buy a single US dollar on the street. I mean, decades of mismanagement and crushing sanctions have just gutted the currency. It's lost almost half its value in less than a year, completely wiping out people's life savings.
And this right here, this shows you the bizarre, warped reality at the heart of the economy. The government has this official rate, right? 42,000 rials to the dollar. But the real price, what you'd actually pay, it's 35 times higher. A gap that huge just breeds corruption and absolutely shatters any trust in the financial system.
So, what does a currency crash like that actually mean for the average person? Well, it means this. The cost of just living becomes unbearable. We're talking about annual inflation over 42%. And food prices? They've shot up by more than 70%. For millions of Iranians, just surviving day to day has become a desperate struggle.
So, what's the government's big idea to fix this? Redenomination. Basically, they want to just chop 4 zeros off the currency. But let's be really clear. This is like putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. It might make the numbers on the banknotes look a little less crazy, but it does absolutely nothing to cure the actual disease of hyperinflation.
But here's the thing. This economic nightmare, it's not happening in a vacuum. It's crashing right into a second, much slower-burning crisis, a full-blown environmental collapse, where decades of really bad decisions are finally coming due.
And the numbers here, they are just grim. We're talking about the 5th straight year of drought. Rainfall is down by a third, maybe more. And the dams that supply huge cities, 19 of them are at critical levels. The capital, Tehran, is literally facing a day zero scenario where the taps could just run dry.
This quote about Lake Urmia, it's just tragic. It's become a symbol of this entire crisis, and it really hits home. The key phrase here is point of no return. You know, this isn't a temporary problem you can just engineer your way out of. The damage is done.
I mean, just look at the difference. It's devastating. Lake Urmia used to be the biggest lake in the entire Middle East. Now it's little more than a giant dead salt flat. And when a lake that size dies, it triggers these huge salt storms, it messes with the whole region's climate, and it forces people to leave their home.
And if the drought wasn't bad enough, there's something else happening, something they call the silent earthquake. For decades, they've been pumping way too much water out from under the ground, and now the ground itself is sinking. It's cracking buildings, roads, pipelines, threatening the very foundations of cities like Tehran.
And all of this, the empty wallets, the dry taps, it all leads us to our third storm front, a political system that is completely paralyzed, totally isolated, and is now responding to its own people with just overwhelming, brutal force.
So how has the regime responded to its people? Not with solutions, but with an iron fist. They've shut off the internet to stop people from organizing. They're threatening fast-track trials and executions. State media, it's calling dead protesters terrorists. And maybe worst of all, security forces are raiding hospitals, literally dragging wounded demonstrators from their beds. It's a sign of a state at war with its own citizens.
And you can really see the government's mindset in the hardware they're bringing in. These aren't just riot control vehicles. They've acquired Russian Spartak MRAPs. Now, MRAP stands for Mine-Resistant Ambush Protected. The specs tell you everything. This vehicle is designed to withstand armor-piercing bullets. This isn't for protests. This is for fighting an insurgency.
And while all this is happening at home,
Iran's power on the world stage is also just evaporating. The fall of the Assad regime in Syria, that was a massive blow. It cut off their main supply line to their most important ally, Hezbollah. It's left Tehran more isolated in the region than it's been in decades.
Okay, so this is the crucial part. We've got the economic storm, the environmental storm, and the political storm. And they aren't just happening at the same time, they are locked together, creating this vicious, devastating feedback loop.
So you might be asking, how does this actually work? How do all these different things, the money, the water, the politics, all feed off each other to create something so catastrophic?
Well, it's a cycle, right? The economy craters, so people pour into the streets. The environmental crisis, like a water shortage in your city, just adds to the misery and makes people even angrier. Then the state cracks down with violence, which only fuels more rage and destroys any legitimacy it had left. And finally, being isolated from the world means there's no way for the economy to recover, which tightens the screws even more, and the whole cycle just starts over.
You know, one of the geopolitical analyses we looked at used this metaphor that I just can't get out of my head. They said the Iranian nation is currently a house on fire. And that feels right. It's not one fire, it's a whole bunch of them that have all merged into one single uncontrollable inferno. The question now isn't just how the regime will respond, it's whether it can possibly survive at all.